The marriage certificate trembles in my hands like ice against my fingertips. Joseph Reed, my husband of exactly 3 hours, sits across from me in his black Bentley, scrolling through emails as if I don't exist in the same breathing space. The gold wedding ring on his finger catches the city lights streaming through tinted windows, a perfect match to mine, but everything about this moment feels constructed, artificial. "This is strictly business," he had said coldly during the ceremony, his voice cutting through the small gathering of lawyers and witnesses. Strictly business. No love, no touching, no expectations beyond the 2-year contract that would save both our family companies from bankruptcy. I had nodded then, pretending I was perfectly fine with the arrangement, but now sitting in this luxury car, breathing in his expensive cologne mixed with leather seats, I realized this won't be as simple as I thought. The silence between us grows heavier with each passing streetlight. I steal glances at his profile. Sharp jawline, perfectly styled dark hair, those gray eyes that seem to calculate everything they see. He's exactly what you'd expect from a billionaire CEO. Controlled, distant, intimidatingly handsome. And for the next 2 years he's technically mine. "Matthew." His voice cuts through my observations, making me jump slightly. It's the first time he's said my name since we signed the papers. "It's time for you to go back to your place. The driver will drop you off." My heart sinks unexpectedly. "What do you mean? Won't we be living together?" His gray eyes finally meet mine, and for a split second I catch something strange flickering in them. Something almost vulnerable. But then his professional mask slides back into place. "Remember the contract. Separate lives. We only appear together when necessary for public appearances." Right. Public appearances. Perfect couple in front of cameras. Complete strangers behind closed doors. This was the arrangement I agreed to when my family's graphic design firm was drowning in debt and his family needed a marriage to secure a business merger. A business transaction disguised as a wedding ceremony. The car stops in front of my modest apartment building and I watch Joseph's expression change as he takes in the neighborhood through his window. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "You live here?" he asks, and there's something in his tone I can't quite identify. "This neighborhood, is it not safe enough?" I respond defensively, suddenly self-conscious about my small world compared to his empire. "No," he says slowly, his voice dropping to something almost protective. "It's definitely not safe enough for my husband." Husband. The way he says that word sends unexpected goosebumps down my arms. There's possession in it, ownership that wasn't mentioned in any contract clause. But he's just my contract husband, I remind myself. This is all pretend. As I move to exit the car, he suddenly reaches out and grasps my wrist. The touch is electric, sending a shock up my arm that I wasn't prepared for. His fingers are warm, firm, and I can feel his pulse where his thumb rests against my skin. "If there's any problem, call me," he says, but he doesn't let go of my wrist. His eyes scan my face as if he's memorizing every detail, the way my breath catches, how my cheeks flush, the confusion that must be written all over my expression. The driver clears his throat softly, waiting, but Joseph's grip remains steady on my wrist. The city noise fades around us until all I can hear is my own heartbeat and the soft sound of his breathing. "Joseph," I start to say, but I don't know how to finish the sentence. "Go," he says quickly, releasing my wrist as if my skin burned him. "I'll see you at the office tomorrow." The car pulls away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk, staring at my wrist where his touch still lingers like a ghost of warmth. I flex my fingers, trying to shake off the sensation, but it clings to my skin stubbornly. Inside my apartment, I collapse onto my worn couch and stare at the ceiling. Everything has changed in a single day. This morning I was Matthew Parker, struggling graphic designer barely making rent. Tonight I'm Matthew Reed, married to one of the most powerful men in the city. Fake married, but married nonetheless. I touch my wrist again, remembering the way his fingers felt against my pulse points. The intensity in his gray eyes when he called me his husband. The protective edge in his voice when he looked at my neighborhood. None of that was in the contract we signed. None of that felt like business. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "Sleep well, tomorrow we start our arrangement properly." I stare at the message, reading it 3 times. Even his texts sound formal, controlled. But he took the time to text me. He saved my number, programmed it into his phone, thought about me enough to send a goodnight message. I save his number as Joseph contract husband but then delete contract and just put Joseph. It looks more real that way, less clinical. Outside my window, the city continues its nightly rhythm, but everything feels different now. I'm no longer just another struggling artist trying to make it in an expensive city. I'm someone's husband, even if it's only on paper. I'm connected to Joseph Reed's world now, bound to him by legal documents and business necessity. But as I lie in bed, I keep thinking about his touch, the way he said my husband with such conviction, the concern in his voice about my safety, the way he looked at me in that car like I was something precious he needed to protect. Maybe this arrangement won't be as straightforward as either of us thought. Maybe some things can't be controlled by contracts and business terms. Maybe the next 2 years will be more complicated than simple pretense. I fall asleep with his touch still burning on my wrist, wondering what tomorrow will bring when I walk into his world officially as Joseph Reed's husband. The next morning, I stand in front of Reed Industries' towering glass doors, my reflection staring back at me from the polished surface. Everything has changed overnight. I'm no longer just Matthew Parker. I'm Joseph Reed's husband. Fake husband, but still. I spent half the night thinking about his touch on my wrist, the way he said my husband with such ownership, and I'm more confused than ever about what this business arrangement actually means. The lobby is bustling with perfectly dressed employees, their designer suits making my simple white shirt and black pants look shabby in comparison. Whispers follow me as I walk toward the reception desk, and I can feel curious stares burning into my back. Word travels fast in corporate circles, especially when the notoriously private CEO suddenly announces a marriage to someone nobody's ever heard of. Mr. Parker? A polished secretary approaches with a professional smile. Mr. Reed is waiting for you upstairs. The elevator ride to the top floor feels endless. My heart pounds against my ribs as I remember last night. His protective tone, the electricity of his touch, the way his eyes lingered on my face. I'm about to enter his domain, see him in his element as the powerful CEO everyone fears and respects. The elevator dings softly, and the doors open to reveal a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. Joseph's office sits at the far end, glass walls giving me a clear view of him bent over documents at a massive conference table. He's in a perfectly tailored black suit, his dark hair styled impeccably, and he looks every inch the billionaire who owns half the city. I knock softly on the glass doorframe. "Come in," he says without looking up, his voice carrying the same commanding tone I remember from yesterday. I step inside, closing the door behind me, and suddenly the spacious office feels intimate. His cologne, that same expensive scent from the car, fills the air around me. He finally looks up and those gray eyes immediately focus on my clothes with laser-like intensity. "What are you wearing?" His voice carries a strange undertone I can't identify. "Clothes?" I respond defensively, suddenly self-conscious under his scrutiny. He stands slowly, pushing back from the conference table and walks toward me with deliberate steps. "Matthew, you're my wife now. You're part of the Reed family. Your appearance reflects on this company." Wife. He called me his wife. It sounds strange coming from his lips, but something flutters in my chest at the possessive way he says it. The same flutter I felt last night when his skin touched mine. I can't afford designer clothes, I admit, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. He stops directly in front of me, close enough that I can see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes, smell his cologne mixed with something distinctly him, close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Starting tomorrow, you'll have a personal stylist," he says, his voice softer now but still firm. "Credit cards are already being prepared. Use them." "Joseph, that's too much. Don't argue with me on this." His voice turns commanding again. "This is a business arrangement. You need to look the part." Before I can respond, someone knocks on the office door. "Come in," Joseph calls, immediately stepping back from me, but I can still feel the lingering heat where he stood so close. A tall, handsome man enters with the kind of confident swagger that screams old money and privilege. Designer suit, perfect smile, the kind of man who's never been told no in his life. "Joseph, buddy," he says cheerfully, his eyes immediately searching the room. "Congratulations on the marriage." I've been dying to meet your beautiful wife. I watch Joseph's entire demeanor shift in real time. His jaw clenches, his shoulders tense, and he moves to stand possessively close to my chair. The change is dramatic, from composed CEO to something more primal and protective. Derek. Joseph's voice turns ice cold. This is Matthew, my husband. Derek's confident smile falters slightly. Oh, husband? His gaze sweeps over me with barely concealed judgment and confusion. I mean, congratulations, of course. The awkwardness in the room is suffocating. Derek extends his hand toward me for a handshake, clearly trying to recover from his surprise, but before I can even lift my arm, Joseph's hand lands possessively on my shoulder. His grip is firm, claiming exactly like when he grabbed my wrist last night. Derek, I'm afraid we'll have to postpone your meeting, Joseph says coldly, his hand tightening on my shoulder. Matthew and I have lunch plans. Derek's face shows pure shock. Everyone knows Joseph Reed never takes lunch breaks, never interrupts business for personal matters. But here he is, practically dragging me out of his own office. In the elevator, his hand remains on my shoulder, and I can feel tension radiating from his body. Who was that? I ask, breaking the heavy silence. Business partner, he replies curtly. Why were you so rude to him? The elevator doors close, and Joseph suddenly turns to face me. His gray eyes are intense, almost dangerous, and I'm reminded that this man didn't build an empire by being soft or compromising. Because, he whispers, stepping closer until I can feel his breath on my face, contract husband or not, you're mine for the next 2 years. And I don't share what's mine. The words send goosebumps racing down my spine. This possessiveness, this claiming tone. None of this was in the contract we signed. This feels real, raw, completely unscripted. My heart hammers against my chest as his eyes bore into mine. Joseph, remember that, he says quietly, his voice carrying a warning and a promise all at once. The elevator reaches the ground floor with a soft ding, breaking the spell between us. Joseph steps back, his professional mask sliding back into place. But I can still feel the intensity crackling in the air between us. As we walk through the lobby toward the exit, I'm hyper-aware of his presence beside me. The way he walks with controlled confidence. How other employees practically scatter out of his path. The protective energy that seems to surround me when I'm near him. But I'm also confused. This morning started as a business arrangement, a simple introduction to his corporate world. Instead, I witnessed jealousy, possessiveness, and something that felt distinctly personal. The way he said "you're mine" didn't sound like contract language. It sounded like ownership, like genuine possession. Outside on the busy street, waiting for his driver to bring the car around, I steal glances at his profile. His jaw is still tight from the encounter with Derek, his eyes scanning the crowd with what looks like protective awareness. Joseph, I start to say, but he cuts me off. Lunch first, he says simply. Then we'll discuss the rules. Rules. Of course there would be rules. But as I slide into his car again, breathing in that familiar scent of leather and cologne, I wonder if the rules he's about to set have more to do with business, or with whatever just happened in that elevator between us. The private restaurant Joseph chooses is exactly what I'd expect from a man of his caliber. Understated elegance, discreet service, and tables spaced far enough apart to ensure private conversations. But as we settle into our booth, I find myself studying his face instead of the menu, trying to understand the intensity that just exploded in his elevator. This is one of your regular spots? I ask, attempting to break through the tension that followed us from his office. Yes, he replies, setting down his menu with precise movements. No paparazzi, no business associates accidentally dropping by. Perfect for conversations that need to stay private. The waiter appears, and Joseph orders for both of us without consulting me. Under normal circumstances, I'd be annoyed by such controlling behavior, but somehow he's chosen exactly what I would have wanted. How does he know I prefer salmon to steak? That I like my coffee black? Did he research my preferences, or is this just coincidence? Joseph, I begin carefully, testing the waters. We should establish some ground rules. The contract covers business obligations, but in real life, what about real life? His gray eyes sharpen, focusing on me with laser intensity. I mean, if I want to meet people, make friends, Maybe date? Date? The word explodes from him with such force that I instinctively lean back. His entire body goes rigid, hands clenching on the white tablecloth. Hypothetically speaking, I add quickly, recognizing the dangerous territory I've wandered into. Joseph's fork clinks against his plate as he sets it down with controlled violence. The muscles in his neck are visible, tension rolling off him in waves. The contract clearly states we maintain the image of a committed married couple. Dating other people would be a direct breach. But this is a business marriage, Joseph. There aren't supposed to be real feelings involved. Something flashes across his face. Pain, anger, disappointment. So quickly I almost miss it. Exactly. It's business. So follow the business rules. But there's something else in his voice now. Something hurt and vulnerable that makes my chest tighten unexpectedly. Did my words wound him somehow? After lunch, we're walking through the parking garage when a familiar voice calls out behind us. Matthew? Matthew, Parker? I turn to see Jake Miller jogging toward us. His face lit up with genuine excitement. Jake, tall, athletic, with that easy smile that made him popular in college. The kind of guy who makes everyone feel comfortable just by being around. Jake. I can't hide my excitement. After the intensity of Joseph's world, seeing a familiar face feels like finding an oasis in the desert. Jake pulls me into a tight hug, and for a moment I let myself relax into the embrace of genuine friendship. Man, it's been years. What are you up to these days? I'm laughing at Jake's story about his disastrous attempt at rock climbing when I notice Joseph has gone completely silent beside us. When I glance over, his face is a blank mask, but his hands are clenched into fists. The same dangerous tension from the elevator is building again. Jake, this is Joseph. I say, realizing I need to make introductions. The words stick in my throat. How do I explain this relationship? Contract husband sounds ridiculous. Business arrangement sounds cold. But what else can I call him? Partner. Joseph supplies smoothly, his arm sliding around my waist with practiced ease. The touch is warm, possessive, and sends electricity shooting through my nervous system. Jake's eyebrows rise. Partner? Business partner. Life partner, Joseph corrects firmly, his arm tightening around me. There's steel in his voice, a claiming quality that makes my skin tingle where he touches me. Jake's surprise is obvious. Wow, Matthew. Congratulations, man. You never mentioned that you were. It's a recent realization. I manage, hyper-aware of Joseph's body heat against my side. We really should get going. Joseph interrupts suddenly. We're running late. Come on. We just ran into each other. Jake protests. Matthew, how about coffee later? We could catch up properly? He's busy. Joseph starts, but I cut him off. Sure, I say quickly. Same cafe where we used to study? Jake's face lights up. Perfect. 6 o'clock? Joseph's grip on my waist becomes almost painful. When I look at his face, I see something I've never witnessed before. Pure, raw jealousy. It's fierce and possessive and completely unguarded. In the car, Joseph is utterly silent. He starts the engine, turns on music, but the tension is so thick I can barely breathe. His knuckles are white where they grip the steering wheel. Finally, at a red light, he speaks. Cancel it. What? The coffee date. Cancel it. Why? I challenge, some part of me pushing back against his control. Jake is an old friend. It's just innocent coffee. Innocent? Joseph laughs. But it's a bitter sound. He looked at you like what? The light turns green. But Joseph doesn't move. Cars behind us start honking, but he seems oblivious to everything except his own internal struggle. Like I look at you, he whispers finally. My heart stops beating. Joseph? A car horn blares behind us, breaking whatever spell had fallen over the moment. Joseph floors the accelerator, but his words echo in my head, changing everything between us. Like I look at you, contract husband or not. There's something real in his eyes. Something that was never mentioned in any business agreement. Something that's been growing since that first night when he touched my wrist and called me his husband with such conviction. The rest of the drive passes in loaded silence. When we reach my apartment building, Joseph doesn't just drop me off. He parks, turns off the engine, and sits staring straight ahead. Joseph? I venture softly. I meant what I said in the elevator. He says quietly, you're mine for the next 2 years. I know it's just a contract to you, just business, but he turns to look at me, and his gray eyes are raw with something that looks dangerously close to real emotion. I take care of what's mine. I protect what's mine, and I don't share. The intensity of his gaze is overwhelming. This isn't the controlled CEO or the cold businessman. This is something else entirely. Something possessive and real and completely unscripted. This is just supposed to be pretend. I whisper, maybe for you, he says, his voice rough. Maybe it started that way for me too. But it doesn't feel pretend anymore. Before I can respond, before I can process what he's just admitted, he's out of the car and opening my door like a gentleman. But when I step onto the sidewalk, he catches my wrist again, the same wrist he touched last night. His thumb finds my pulse point, and I know he can feel how fast my heart is racing. Coffee with Jake, he says quietly. 1 hour. Then I want you to come to my penthouse. Why? His thumb presses against my pulse, and his eyes search my face. Because we need to figure out what this really is between us. And because I'm tired of pretending I don't want you there. He releases my wrist and gets back in his car, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with my heart pounding and my world completely turned upside down. 1 coffee with Jake, then Joseph's penthouse, then facing whatever this thing is between us that's grown far beyond the boundaries of any contract. The familiar aroma of coffee and old books hits me as I enter Café Luna, the place where Jake and I spent countless hours cramming for finals during our college years. Nothing has changed. Same worn leather chairs, same jazz music playing softly in the background, same corner table by the window where we used to sit. But everything feels different now because Joseph's words keep echoing in my head. Like I look at you. What did that mean exactly? How does he look at me? And why does the memory of his thumb pressed against my pulse point make my heart race even now? An hour later, Jake waves from our old spot, already nursing what looks like his 3rd espresso. His easy smile is exactly the same as I remember. Warm and uncomplicated. For a moment I feel nostalgic for simpler times when the most complicated thing in my life was choosing a major. You look good, man, Jake says as I settle into the chair across from him. Different, but good. Marriage agrees with you, I guess. Marriage. If only he knew how complicated that word has become in the span of 24 hours. Thanks. You look the same as ever. So tell me everything, Jake leans forward eagerly. How did you meet Joseph? When did you realize you were into guys? College Matthew was definitely checking out girls in our design classes. The questions feel like landmines. How do I explain that my marriage is a business contract? That I'm still not sure about my sexuality, but something about Joseph makes my skin burn every time he touches me. That I've been straight my entire life until a gray-eyed billionaire called me his husband with such conviction that it rewrote something fundamental in my brain. It's complicated, I say finally. Which seems to be my default answer for everything involving Joseph. Complicated how? Jake's expression grows concerned. Matthew, you seem tense. Different from the guy I used to know. Is everything okay with him? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Joseph, how's your coffee going? Don't forget, my penthouse at 8. Just reading his text makes my pulse quicken. There's something commanding about even his digital communications. Something that makes me hyper-aware of every sensation in my body. Who's that? Jake asks, noticing my distraction. Joseph. I admit, setting the phone aside but feeling its weight like a physical presence. He checks up on you a lot? He's protective. The word feels inadequate for the intensity I witnessed today. The way he positioned himself between Derek and me, the possessive grip on my waist, the raw jealousy in his eyes when Jake hugged me, protective or controlling. Jake's voice carries a note of concern that makes me look up sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Jake runs a hand through his hair, clearly choosing his words carefully. Look, I'm not judging, but the guy I met today seemed pretty intense. The way he looked at me when I hugged you, like he wanted to physically remove me from existence. And you? You're different, Matthew. You keep checking your phone, you seem nervous, like you're afraid of disappointing him. His words hit closer to home than I want to admit. Am I afraid of disappointing Joseph? When did that happen? Jake, you don't understand. Joseph's world is complicated. There are expectations. What kind of expectations? Jake leans forward, his expression serious. Matthew, you were always independent. You made your own choices. Now you seem like you're constantly looking for approval. My phone buzzes again. Joseph, everything all right? You haven't responded. I stare at the message, realizing Jake might have a point. Why do I feel compelled to respond immediately? Why does the thought of keeping Joseph waiting make anxiety crawl up my spine? See? Jake points to my phone. You look stressed just reading his text. It's not like that, I say, but even I can hear the uncertainty in my voice. Then what is it like? Jake challenges. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're in a relationship where you're afraid to breathe wrong. I want to defend Joseph, to explain that his intensity comes from something deeper than control. But how can I explain something I don't fully understand myself? How can I tell Jake that Joseph's possessiveness makes me feel claimed and protected rather than trapped when I'm not sure that's entirely healthy? He cares about me, I say finally. Caring and controlling aren't the same thing, Jake replies gently. I care about you too, and I'm worried. This doesn't feel like the Matthew I knew. Another buzz. Joseph? Matthew? Answer me. The command in those 3 words makes my stomach flutter with something between anxiety and excitement. Jake notices my reaction and shakes his head. That's not normal, man. Partners don't command each other like that. You don't know him. I snap, suddenly defensive. You've met him once for 5 minutes. You don't understand our relationship. Then help me understand, Jake says calmly. Because what I see is my friend changing into someone I don't recognize, and not necessarily in a good way. I want to explain, but how can I? How can I tell Jake that Joseph's intensity awakens something in me I never knew existed? That his possessiveness makes me feel wanted in a way I've never experienced? That even his controlling tendencies feel like evidence that I matter to him? It's just new, I say lamely. We're still figuring things out. Jake studies my face for a long moment. Matthew, can I ask you something? Are you happy? The question stops me cold. Happy? What does that even mean in the context of my arrangement with Joseph? I'm confused, overwhelmed, constantly on edge, but also more alive than I've felt in years. Every interaction with him is charged with electricity. Every touch sets my skin on fire. Every possessive gesture makes something primal in me respond with approval. I don't know. I admit honestly, I don't know what I am. That's not a good sign, Jake says quietly. My phone rings, Joseph's name on the screen. I stare at it, torn between answering immediately and proving Jake's point, or letting it ring and dealing with Joseph's displeasure later. I answer on the 4th ring. Matthew. Joseph's voice is tight with something between concern and irritation. Why aren't you responding to my texts? I'm having coffee with Jake. Like I told you I would. It's been over an hour. How long does coffee take? I can feel Jake watching me, reading every micro-expression on my face. We're catching up. It's been years since we've seen each other. There's a pause. Then I need you at the penthouse. Now, Joseph. I'm in the middle of... Now, Matthew. The command in his voice is absolute, brooking no argument. I look at Jake's concerned face and feel something crack inside my chest. I have to go. Matthew. Wait, but I'm already standing, pulling out my wallet to pay for coffee I barely touched. Let me come with you, Jake says suddenly. I want to meet this guy properly, have a real conversation. The thought of Jake and Joseph in the same room, of Jake witnessing Joseph's intensity up close, makes panic flare in my chest. That's not a good idea. Why not? If he's as great as you say he is, he shouldn't have a problem with your friends. I can't explain why that suggestion terrifies me. Can't articulate that Joseph barely tolerates Derek, his business partner, being near me. That his jealousy is a living thing that consumes rational thoughts. That bringing Jake into Joseph's space would be like throwing gasoline on a fire. Jake, please. Just trust me on this. Jake stands too, his expression shifting to something like alarm. Matthew, listen to yourself. You're scared of him. I'm not scared, I protest. But the words sound hollow even to me. Then prove it. Let me meet him properly. Let me see that this relationship is as healthy as you claim it is. My phone starts ringing again. Joseph's patience has clearly run out. I have to go, I repeat, backing toward the door. Matthew. Jake calls after me, but I'm already pushing through the cafe door, stepping into the cool evening air. As I hail a taxi, I catch a glimpse of Jake through the window. He's standing by our table, phone in his hand, looking worried and frustrated. For a moment, I consider going back inside. Consider admitting that he might be right, that something about my relationship with Joseph isn't quite normal. But then I think about Joseph waiting for me in his penthouse. About the way he looked at me in the elevator today when he said I was his. About the promise in his voice when he told me we needed to figure out what this really is between us. Whatever's happening between Joseph and me might not be conventional, but it's real. It's intense and complicated and maybe a little dangerous, but it's the most alive I've ever felt. I give the taxi driver Joseph's address and settle back against the seat, my heart pounding with anticipation and apprehension in equal measure. Jake's words echo in my head. Are you happy? I still don't know the answer to that question. But as the city lights blur past the window, carrying me toward Joseph and whatever revelation awaits in his penthouse, I realize that happiness might not be the right metric for what we have. What we have is something else entirely. Something that transcends simple happiness or unhappiness. Something that might just redefine everything I thought I knew about myself. The elevator to Joseph's penthouse moves silently upward, but my heart pounds so loud I'm sure the entire building can hear it. My hands are trembling slightly, from Jake's confronting questions, from Joseph's commanding phone calls, from the anticipation of whatever conversation is waiting for me behind those polished steel doors. The city sprawls below through the elevator's glass walls, twinkling lights making everything look surreal and dreamlike. When the doors open directly into Joseph's living space, I'm struck by how the penthouse reflects him perfectly. Clean lines, expensive everything, but somehow cold despite its obvious luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a panoramic view of the city, and I can see my own reflection ghosted in the glass, looking small and uncertain in this temple of wealth and power. You're late. Joseph's voice comes from somewhere in the shadows beyond the main living area. I step inside, the elevator doors closing behind me with a soft whisper. Traffic was heavy, traffic. He emerges from what looks like a home bar, 2 glasses of whiskey in his hands. He's changed out of his business suit into dark jeans and a black sweater, looking more approachable but no less intimidating. How was your coffee date? The way he says date drips with barely controlled jealousy. I can see it in the tight set of his shoulders, the way his jaw clenches around the words. It was just coffee, Joseph. Jake is an old friend. Friends. He hands me one of the glasses, his fingers brushing mine deliberately. The contact sends electricity up my arm, just like every time he touches me. Tell me about this friend. I take a sip of the whiskey, hoping it will calm my nerves. It burns going down, expensive and smooth. We went to college together, graphic design program. He's a good guy who thinks he can hug my husband whenever he wants. It was just a friendly hug. Nothing about the way he looked at you was friendly. Matthew. Joseph moves to the windows, staring out at the city lights. I know what desire looks like. I see it in mirrors every time I look at you. My breath catches. Joseph, do you want to know what Jake was thinking when he hugged you today? He turns back to face me, his gray eyes intense in the dim lighting. He was thinking about what you'd feel like against him. He was remembering college, wondering if you've changed, if you still smell the same. He was calculating how to get you alone, away from me. That's not, it is. Joseph's voice is quiet but absolute, because that's what I would be thinking if I were him. That's what any man with eyes would be thinking. He crosses the room toward me, and I find myself backing up until my legs hit the edge of his massive leather couch. He doesn't stop until he's close enough that I can smell his cologne, see the flecks of darker gray in his irises. You want to know what this is between us? He asks, echoing his words from the car earlier. You want to understand why I can't stand the thought of another man touching you, even innocently? I nod, not trusting my voice. I've been thinking about you since the moment you walked into my office to sign the contract 3 months ago, he says, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You sat in that chair, nervous and trying so hard to look professional in your one good suit. And something in me just claimed you. Before you even signed the papers. Before this was legal or official or anything resembling real. 3 months ago, the day I first met him, when this whole arrangement was just a business proposition to save both our families from financial ruin. You were supposed to be convenient. He continues, one hand coming up to trace the line of my jaw. A clean solution to a complicated problem. 2 years of fake marriage, public appearances, then a quiet divorce, and we both move on with our lives. His thumb brushes across my cheek, and I lean into the touch before I can stop myself. But you complicated everything just by existing in my space. By being real instead of just a signature on a contract. By looking at me like maybe I wasn't just a cold businessman trying to use you. Joseph, I whisper. I started researching you, he admits, his hand moving to cup the back of my neck. Your coffee preferences. Your favorite foods. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I told myself it was just being thorough, making sure our arrangement would be convincing. My skin feels like it's on fire where he's touching me. And now I know it was never about the arrangement. His other hand comes up to frame my face completely. I've been half in love with you for months. And seeing Jake touch you today, seeing how comfortable you were with him, it made me realize I can't keep pretending this is just business. Half in love. The words hit me like a physical force, stealing the breath from my lungs. I know it's not what you signed up for, he continues, his voice rough with something that sounds like vulnerability. I know you're probably confused and maybe a little scared of how intense this has gotten, but I can't keep pretending I don't want more than what's written in our contract. More? I want you to stay here. Not just tonight, but really stay. I want to wake up next to you and go to sleep knowing you're safe. I want the right to be jealous when other men look at you because you're actually mine. Not just legally mine. My head is spinning. This is so far from the cold business arrangement I thought I was entering. Joseph, I don't know if I can. Don't decide now. He says quickly. Just think about it. Think about whether what you feel when I touch you is just physical attraction or something more. As if to prove his point, his thumb traces across my lower lip, and my entire body responds with a shiver of want that I can't hide. I've been fighting this for months, he whispers. Fighting the urge to kiss you every time you're close. Fighting the need to mark you somehow so everyone knows you're taken. Fighting the desire to make this arrangement as real as it feels to me. It feels real to you. More real than anything else in my life. His forehead drops against mine and I can feel his breath warm against my lips. Tell me I'm not imagining that you feel it too. Tell me that when I touch you, you feel the same electricity I do. I do feel it. God help me, I feel it so strongly it scares me. Every brush of his fingers sends heat shooting through my veins. Every possessive word makes something primal in me respond with approval. Every jealous look makes me feel claimed and wanted in ways I never knew I craved. I feel it, I admit in a whisper. Something changes in his expression, relief, desire. Something deeper and more complex than I can name. Then stay tonight, he says. Not in the guest room. With me. Let me show you what this could be if we stop fighting it. My rational mind screams warnings. This is moving too fast. This isn't what I agreed to. This will complicate everything beyond repair. But my body is already responding to his nearness, to the promise in his voice, to the way he's looking at me like I'm something precious he's afraid of breaking. Jake thinks you're controlling me, I say suddenly, the words spilling out before I can stop them. Joseph goes very still. What do you think? It's a fair question. Am I being controlled? Or am I finally discovering what it feels like to be truly wanted by someone who isn't afraid to show it? I think, I say slowly, that you make me feel things I've never felt before. And that scares me almost as much as it excites me. Good, he says, his lips curving into the first genuine smile I've seen from him all day. Fear means it matters. Excitement means you want it anyway. And if I stay tonight, then tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Together. His hands are still framing my face, and I can see my own reflection in his gray eyes, flushed, breathing hard, looking like a man on the verge of jumping off a very high cliff. One night, I whisper. One night, he agrees. And then we see where this goes. When he finally kisses me, soft and careful and sweet, it feels like everything in my world shifts and settles into a new configuration. Like I've been waiting my entire life for this moment without knowing it. Jake's worried questions fade into background noise. The complications and consequences of mixing business with pleasure seem less important than the way Joseph holds me like I'm something infinitely valuable. For tonight at least, I'm willing to find out what happens when we stop pretending this is just a contract and start exploring what it could be if we let it become real. Sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Joseph's bedroom, and for a disorienting moment, I don't remember where I am. Then awareness crashes over me in waves. The unfamiliar weight of expensive sheets, the scent of Joseph's cologne on the pillow beside me, the warmth of his body pressed against my back, one arm draped possessively around my waist, even in sleep. Last night, God, last night changed everything. I lie still, afraid to move and break whatever spell has fallen over us. Joseph's breathing is slow and even against my neck, his chest rising and falling in a rhythm that's somehow already become comforting. His arm tightens slightly around me. Even unconscious, he's holding me close. The penthouse is quiet except for the distant hum of the city waking up 40 floors below. Through the windows I can see the sun painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, and I realize I've never watched sunrise from this height before. Everything looks different from up here. Smaller, more manageable, like problems that seem insurmountable from street level might actually have solutions when viewed from Joseph's world. You're thinking too loud. Joseph's voice is rough with sleep, vibrating against my shoulder blade. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. I was already awake. His lips brush against the sensitive spot where my neck meets my shoulder, sending shivers down my spine. Watching you think is entertaining. What time is it? Early. We don't have to move yet. His arm tightens around me, pulling me closer against the solid warmth of his chest. Are you having regrets? The question hangs in the air. Between us, loaded with all the complexity of what happened last night. Am I having regrets? Everything logical tells me I should be. This arrangement was supposed to be simple, clean, temporary. Now it's messy and complicated and achingly real. I don't know, I answer honestly. That's better than yes, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. I turn in his arms so I can see his face. His hair is mussed from sleep, making him look younger, less like the intimidating CEO and more like just a man who wants something he's afraid he can't have. Joseph. What happens now? Now we have breakfast, he says, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. And then we figure out what comes next. It can't be that simple. Why not? He reaches up to brush a strand of hair away from my forehead. We're both adults. We both want this. The only thing complicating it is our own overthinking. The contract. The contract says we maintain the appearance of marriage. It doesn't say anything about the marriage actually becoming real. Real. The word makes my stomach flutter with something between excitement and terror. I start then stop, not sure how to articulate what I'm feeling. Never what? Never felt like this about anyone before. Man or woman. It's confusing. His expression softens. Confusing how? Like I don't know who I am anymore. 3 days ago, I thought I understood myself. I was straight, independent, focused on my career. Now I'm lying in bed with my fake husband who I can't stop thinking about. And I don't recognize the person I'm becoming. Joseph is quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing gentle patterns on my cheek. Maybe you're not becoming someone different. Maybe you're just becoming more yourself than you've ever allowed yourself to be. What do you mean? I mean, maybe sexuality isn't as fixed as we think it is. Maybe it's not about gender for you. Maybe it's about connection, about finding someone who sees you completely and wants all of it. The way he says it, like he's speaking from experience, makes me study his face more carefully. Is that how it is for you? I've never been with a man before either, he admits quietly. But I've also never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. So either we're both having some kind of sexual identity crisis, or we found something that transcends the usual categories. Something about his honesty makes the tight knot of anxiety in my chest loosen slightly. We're both in uncharted territory, both figuring this out as we go. Your family, I say suddenly. What will they think when they find out this isn't just for show anymore? His expression darkens slightly. My family arranged this marriage for business reasons. As long as those reasons are still being served, they don't need to know the details of our private life. But they'll figure it out eventually. Let them. There's steel in his voice now. I'm not going to hide what we have because it might make them uncomfortable. The protective tone makes warmth spread through my chest. He's willing to fight for this, for us, even against his own family if necessary. What about your friend Jake? Joseph asks, and there's a careful neutrality in his voice that doesn't quite mask the underlying tension. What about him? He's going to keep pushing. Keep trying to convince you that I'm not good for you. I think about Jake's concerned questions, his obvious worry about Joseph's intensity. He cares about me. He's just looking out for me. I know. Joseph's jaw tightens slightly, but he doesn't understand what we have. He sees the possessiveness, the control, and he interprets it as something unhealthy. Isn't it? The question slips out before I can stop it. Joseph goes very still. Do you think it is? I search his face, looking for the answer. Yesterday I might have said yes. The jealousy, the commanding texts, the way he maneuvered me away from Derek and tried to control my coffee date with Jake from the outside. It probably does look unhealthy, but lying here in his arms, feeling the careful way he touches me like I'm something precious, remembering the vulnerability in his voice when he admitted his feelings, it doesn't feel like control for the sake of control. It feels like someone fighting to protect something valuable. I think I say slowly, that you're intense in everything you do. Business, relationships, everything. And intensity can look like control if you don't understand the motivation behind it. Something in his expression relaxes. And do you understand the motivation? I think so. I reach up to trace the line of his jaw, marveling at how natural the gesture feels. You're not trying to control me for your own ego. You're trying to protect something you're afraid of losing. I am afraid of losing you, he admits quietly. More afraid than I've ever been of anything in my life. Joseph, I know it's irrational. I know we've only been legally married for 3 days, known each other for 3 months. But I also know that what I feel for you isn't going to fade or diminish with time. If anything, it's going to get stronger. His certainty is both thrilling and terrifying. How can he be so sure when I'm still struggling to understand my own feelings? What if I can't keep up? I ask. What if I'm not ready for the intensity of whatever this is between us? Then we go at your pace, he says immediately. I'm not going anywhere, Matthew. Whatever you need, however long it takes for you to figure out what you want, I'll wait. And if what I want isn't what you want, something flickers across his face. Pain, fear, resignation. Then I'll let you go. But I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that doesn't happen. His phone buzzes from the nightstand, breaking the intimate bubble we've created. He reaches for it with obvious reluctance, his arm leaving my waist to grab the device. It's my assistant, he says, scanning the message. The board meeting got moved up to 10 this morning. Reality crashes back over us. Right. He's still the CEO of a billion-dollar company. I'm still, what am I exactly? His fake husband who spent the night in his bed? His real boyfriend in a fake marriage? Something entirely new that doesn't have a name yet? You should get ready, I say, starting to move away from him. Come with me. The words are out of his mouth before he's even fully processed the thought. To your board meeting? To the office. You can work on some of the design projects we discussed. Be there. Let everyone see that we're... He pauses, searching for the right words. What? What are we, Joseph? He looks at me for a long moment, his gray eyes serious and searching. We're figuring it out together, and I want you there while we do it. It's not a complete answer, but it's enough for now. We're figuring it out together. That feels like the most honest thing either of us has said since this whole arrangement began. Okay, I say, I'll come with you. His smile is brilliant, transforming his entire face. Good. Because I have a feeling today is going to be interesting. As he gets up to shower, I lie back against his pillows and stare at the ceiling. Last night changed everything between us, but this morning feels like the real beginning. Whatever we're becoming, wherever this goes, we're going to face it together. And for the first time since I signed that contract, I'm not terrified of what that might mean.